Today I'm reacting to your wrestling hot takes. This is a weekly series that gives you a platform to be able to voice all of your wrestling opinions on. Typically we gather these hot takes from X, but this week actually comes from the YouTube community tab. So for next week, just make sure that you're looking on both X and the YouTube community tab. I typically ask for your hot takes on Thursdays on either one of those two platforms. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, you're gonna like this channel because we upload daily wrestling content. Now, if you're watching this before the Royal Rumble, you should consider coming over to the Twitch page, twitch.tv/SantiZap, where we're all gonna watch the Royal Rumble together as a community. So if you're gonna be watching the Royal Rumble already, why not watch it with some friends alongside you where you can geek out about everything that's going on? Twitch.tv/SantiZap, I'll put the link in the description. Now, if you're watching this after the Royal Rumble has already happened, well, wow, crazy. I can't believe that he or she came back at the Royal Rumble. All right, let's read some stupid shit. Codys' theme song is the greatest theme song of all time. You know immediately who it is, it's easy to sing along to, and it has crowd participation, which the best theme songs have. Dude, when you break it down scientifically the way that you did, you kind of are making a fantastic point. Now, I can't agree or disagree with you here. Like, really, music is subjective, so you like what you like. I'll be honest, like, I really like Edge's theme. I know that's a bit of a basic bitch answer, but that's my favorite entrance theme. I love the bang at the beginning, the actual song. I love the energy that it brings. So this is actually your opportunity in the comments section to let me know what your favorite WWE wrestling theme is. But again, the way you broke this down, absolutely masterful, my friend. This is a great argument that you made. Batista is the most underrated wrestler to have been a top guy / main eventer in WWE history. He was more versatile than he got credit for as a character. Dude, I absolutely agree with you. Batista has way more depth and way more layers than people actually give him credit for, especially when he became that annoying heel in the later portions of the Ruthless Aggression era and in the early portions of the PG era. It was some absolutely fantastic character work that man was putting on. Of course, as an in-ring wrestler, I've always thought that he was underrated. He always put on pretty solid matches throughout his entire career, whether it was at the beginning of his career or towards the end. What I will also say about Batista is that he just isn't appreciated enough, like you said, as a top guy main eventer. When we look back at the history of professional wrestling, barely people talk about how huge Batista really was in the Ruthless Aggression era and in the early portions of the PG era. Like, this man was a megastar. Not to mention, we like bullied him in 2014 when he came back. He didn't even want to come back as a babyface. They pushed him as a babyface, and we basically booed him out of the company. Honestly, like, looking back on that, I feel really bad. I was part of the problem. Don't get me wrong. I was also booing because I wanted Daniel Bryan, but I feel like we really didn't appreciate Batista while we had him. The Roman Reigns and Nick Aldis story is underrated. It's the opposite of the usual heel authority figure versus face underdog, which provides an interesting aspect. You know what? I never really thought about this dynamic like this. You are absolutely right. I cannot think of the last time that we had this kind of dynamic between a heel, top heel in Roman Reigns and a strong, assertive babyface manager in Nick Aldis. This is actually very unique. You're kind of right here. It does absolutely provide an interesting aspect and a different dynamic of storytelling, especially if it were to ever get physical, because we know that Nick Aldis isn't bitch made. Like, he can get in the ring and fight Roman Reigns if he absolutely needs to. I love the insights that you guys are sending in today. Wow, well done. John Cena is very underrated in the ring. The likes of CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, and Cesaro all arguably had their best WWE matches with Cena. Now, I'm not saying that he's a masterclass technical wrestler, but he deserves his flowers for his in-ring ability. Look, I've always said that it takes two to tango. Now, take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Everybody knows that I'm the biggest John Cena mark on this platform. I do really like John Cena. However, I believe that he gets way too much hate for not being able to wrestle. I get it. He's not Daniel Bryan. He's not Dean Malenko, but you listed out a group of fantastic technical wrestlers, and at the end of the day, it does take two to tango, and the other person that was part of that tango that gave these guys their best matches in the WWE was John Cena. Is that because John Cena is a great technical wrestler? Not necessarily, but there's more to being a good wrestler than just having great holds and making moves look super smooth. Cena is able to create tension. He's able to create suspense with his matches. And that's part of the reason why these guys that you've listed here have had fantastic matches with Cena. Again, not necessarily from the technical point of view, but because it's just a suspenseful match. And Cena is very good at doing that. And he's no slouch. Like, he can go in the ring, sure, like they limit his moves to 5 moves here or there, but it's a very easy set of moves for guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk to be able to work with. I'm with you, dude. I think he's highly underrated, but I also agree with you that he's not this technical magician, but he gets just way too much hate for, again, quote, not being able to wrestle. The early days of Roman Reigns were the best. Every single rivalry was goated. Oh, this is just wrong, dude. Folks, if you want even more wrestling content, consider checking me out over on Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where you're going to get even more content like the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, NXT reviews, the monthly mailbag, and you're going to get the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everyone else. So go check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. It's the top link in the description or the pinned comment. Okay, back to the video. The Butch character was great for Pete Dunne. It showed people that he had some range for playing characters instead of just having him be a, quote, serious guy who breaks fingers all the time. Now that he's back to being Pete Dunne, hopefully his time as Butch will allow him to add more layers to the bruiserweight character that we haven't seen yet. Bro, again, you guys with these like philosophical thoughts, you guys are cooking with the messages this week. Look, I also wanted the super serious guy who breaks fingers, Pete Dunne, to come back, and I'm glad that he's back. But I think you're entirely right. I think his time as Butch probably forced him to develop those aspects of his character that maybe were lacking, because a lot of people did believe, even in Black and Gold or NXT UK, that he was a very one-dimensional character. Don't get me wrong. It's a one-dimensional character that we all really liked because Pete Dunne was fantastic, but now he isn't that anymore. We know that he can be more than just the brooding, super serious guy that breaks fingers. So maybe you're onto something here. Maybe, you know, that time as Butch may be able to expand his repertoire as Pete Dunne. I think Tom versus Nick Mysterio needs to happen at WrestleMania 40. They've been planting the seeds with Nick ghosting Truth when he's with Tom, and I think it's finally time to pull the trigger on this legendary rivalry. I mean, like, I hear voices in the air, and it is Philadelphia. It is the city of brotherly love, and I think it's the perfect place to have the brothers, Nick and Tom, finally go at it. And personally, like, I'm excited to see Nick return back to the WWE. It's been too long since we've seen him, and I think that that return is going to get a giant pop from everyone in Philadelphia. I think you're absolutely correct in this entire assessment. Solo Sikoa is going to become a WWE heavyweight champion within the next 2 to 3 years. He is extremely underrated, and once he breaks away from Roman in the bloodline, he's going to excel. Oh my God, I don't know how to put this in. Like, I feel like I'm being vulnerable with y'all. All right. So just try and not be mad at me. All right. Look, I understand we get mad at each other because of wrestling opinions. Let's not have this be it. I don't get Solo Sikoa. What is his gimmick? I just talk like this. Okay. Yeah. Thumb. It doesn't do it for me. I don't get it. He's just a brooding dude with a thumb. That's it. They need to do more than just the brooding guy with a thumb for me to get behind Solo Sikoa. At the very least, Umaga was crazy and all over the place. But Solo, I don't know, man. I don't get it. I know some people really like him. This is one of those situations I just don't get it. Jey Uso and Chelsea Green should be the 2024 Money in the Bank winners. I like to shout for both of these people, especially Chelsea Green, but I'm sorry, I have to go with Sami Zayn. This being in Toronto, the pop would be absolutely monumental if Sami Zayn were to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. Hell, I'm gonna double it and pass it to the other guy and say that not only should he win the Money in the Bank briefcase, I think he should cash in the same night so he can get that Canadian pop. So I like the Jey Jey Uso shout, but I'm gonna say Sami Zayn. This could be the greatest women's Royal Rumble ever, with not only outstanding women on the roster that can fill out a whole Rumble, but also potential insane returns like AJ Lee, Sasha, and Naomi. Again, this is only gonna be relevant for a few hours because the Royal Rumble is happening in a few hours. So if you've already watched the Royal Rumble, you could probably skip through this. But yeah, dude, I am pumped. Part of the reason why I'm so pumped for this women's Royal Rumble match is primarily because this is a Rumble match that I don't think necessarily needs any major debuts, any shock returns, any legends. I feel like for once, the women's roster is deep from top to bottom enough to actually fill out a women's Royal Rumble. Because in previous years, we've had like 7, 8, 9, 10 legends in one Royal Rumble match. And that's just ultimately too much because it really narrows the field of who's actually a credible winner. So I would love to see very few legends return. And if there are going to be shocks and surprises and returns, I want them to be from people who could credibly potentially win. The WLC match at Extreme Rules 2014 is probably the best pre-show match we've ever gotten. My guy, I'm going to expand on this a little bit more. First of all, I think you're right. I think that this pre-show match is absolutely fantastic. It's available on the WWE YouTube page. You absolutely need to go watch it if you haven't seen it. On top of that, call me crazy, but this is actually like my go-to match to show people that have never watched wrestling. It's just like this right here, this showcase, this absolutely crazy thing that I'm about to show you. This is in essence everything that professional wrestling is all about. I also show them Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio SummerSlam 2002, but the WLC match, it's in the playlist of matches that I show new wrestling fans or people that are interested in getting into wrestling. Would you call them wrestling curious? Despite Kevin Patrick getting axed, I don't want Vic Joseph to replace him on SmackDown. I really like the dynamic that he has with Booker T on NXT. Dude, Vic Joseph and Booker T on paper should not work. That is the most chaotic duo in commentating that I've ever seen. They are so all over the place, and yet somehow it is just chaotic magic. It works. They may be my favorite duo in commentating right now. I do agree with you. I don't want to lose the dynamic between Vic Joseph and Booker T. I want them to be together forever because, again, they just sort of work. They bounce off each other very, very well. They have entirely different energies while also at the same time having very similar energies. I know that's a weird concept to grasp, but it just works. Trust me, the chaos that Booker T and Vic Joseph bring to that commentary booth really gives it a very unique identity. It's not the generic Kevin Patrick, oh, what a move. Like when you hear Vic Joseph and Booker T, like, you know NXT is on. The pandemic era of wrestling in WWE was not as bad as people remember. While it did have the very low bad moments, there were also some pretty high highs as well. The Firefly Funhouse, the Boneyard match at WrestleMania, the Golden Role Models, and the early days of Roman's historic title reign are just example of a few. Dude, I get it. I do love the optimism, but, and I've said this before, for every cool thing that they did during the pandemic era, during the Thunderdome era, they did 10 things horribly. And everything you listed here is also fantastic. I do not disagree with you. But to me, that year and a half is just such a fever dream. And I do commend them for trying wacky different things, but like the zombie match, the eye for an eye match, the swamp match, there was so much garbage during this era. And again, it's because they were able to experiment without the live audience. And I appreciate that. More than anything, though, I just appreciated that wrestling was on at a time where I felt like I really needed wrestling. It was at a time when a lot of sports like the NBA completely shut down. And what was there for me? What was the one constant? It was professional wrestling. This is a fucking weird time, man. It's crazy that we went through that as a society, right? Shout out to WWE for sticking it through, but I'm glad that we're not in that era anymore. The main event scene is so packed right now that a third show and another top title feels necessary. I'm more inclined to be on board with this in today's landscape of the WWE that doesn't have Vince McMahon in any way, shape, or form, because they've already tried this kind of two times before, right? There was ECW, and that was a complete bastardization of the original image of ECW, and it just became another Sunday Night Heat. It just became a D-tier show with a D-tier top championship. Then there was 205 Live, a show that was supposed to have its own unique identity, its own unique type of roster, its own unique look and feel and type of wrestling, and yet it still turned into another corporate shell of the original idea. So WWE just has not really executed very well over the decades with the idea of bringing in a third show. Today's WWE, though, I feel could handle it better. I still am apprehensive about this idea. Again, just because I have more proof that it hasn't worked than proof that it has worked. But you're right, like things are getting packed. TV time is getting hard to come by. So maybe an extra show. Why not? The 2016 Men's Royal Rumble match is never talked about much. I think that the build of one versus all was perfect for Roman Reigns at the time. It also had AJ Styles debut, and it had a heel winning the Rumble, which hasn't happened for a while. I do like the idea of heels winning the Royal Rumble. It's been a long time since a heel has won the Men's Royal Rumble match. I think we need to normalize it. But the 2016 Men's Royal Rumble match is not talked about much because it shouldn't. It's not very good. Look, I understand what you're saying with the one versus all was good for Roman Reigns, but the thing is that it really wasn't one versus all. It was Roman versus Triple H. That was the story coming into it. And when that's the story that you build the entire Royal Rumble after, it means that everyone else not named Roman Reigns or Triple H don't matter in the story that is happening in the Royal Rumble match. So it made people complete afterthoughts throughout that entire match. So I personally didn't like it, and I think there's a reason why a lot of people don't talk about it. WWE should consider doing a 40-man Royal Rumble match again. There is way more star power now than there was back in 2011. Dude, I feel like we should all collectively come together and file a class action lawsuit on the WWE for their false advertisement of the 2011 Royal Rumble match, because they made us all believe that it was going to be the biggest, most important Royal Rumble match, and it was just a Royal Rumble match with extra 10 jobbers. It was awful. So we're already soured on the idea of a 40-man Royal Rumble match. However, similar to the previous hot take about a third show, maybe now it can be done better. It's possible. However, I feel like the execution of the 30-man Royal Rumble and the 30-women Royal Rumble is just so precise now, with it coming down to an hour, that the extra 10 men or women, I feel like just really throws that off. And it also really changes the record books in terms of like longest Royal Rumble and stuff. So I'm going to say respectfully, no, I wanted to stick to 30. All right, folks, that's the video. I'm already starting to lose my voice, so I gotta go drink some water or something. That's it. I'm done. Let me know what I got wrong. Get out of here.